I was thinking of what Dad stood for, and I thought, well, Divine Angel of Destiny, it's pretty good, but I heard the girls out here talking about certain males not doing dishes here, and I thought, do something dishes, what did I say? Do all the dishes? Oh, dishes aren't done.
Go for what I can.
So I thought that'd be a good one. Right. Well, normally I have this plugged in, but it's probably loud enough. Just use this mic, is that?
No, that's fine. Can everyone hear?
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright. Well, this is a little adaptation of it for Father's Day. It's normally called Because of My Brothers and Friends, and I thought I'd just change it a bit, so it goes, because of my fathers and friends, because of my mothers and friends, please let me ask, please let me say peace to you. Because of my fathers and friends, because of my mothers and friends, please let me ask, please let me say peace to you. This is the house of the one I wish the best for you. This is the house of the one I wish the best for you. Because of my fathers and friends, because of my mothers and friends, please let me ask, please let me say peace to you. Because of my fathers and friends, because of my mothers and friends, please let me ask, please let me say peace to you. This is the house of the one I wish the best for you. This is the house of the one I wish the best for you. Like lie, 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 lie,
Father's Day, here we go. I reckon that's a good one, don't you? Imagine, as a child, that's what we thought of our parents. They were there to protect us. The things we did that we got away with because we had our parents there. But thank goodness, they reined us in most of the time. I've been travelling this week. I went to Brisbane and caught up with other Unity leaders. It was a great time. But as usual, when I get to the airport, I like to check out the books. And so I went into the bookshop, and I went into the self-help books and the new books on meditation and things like that. Each year they change. Wonder what happened to last year's bunch of books. People say, look, I read that. I was saying to a man who was standing beside me, he said, I've read that. And I said, yes, but how have you applied it to your life? Because he was going to buy another book very similar. But anyway, some of the titles. He was speechless. He didn't know he was talking to the Reverend William Livingston. Farmageddon was one of the books. The True Cost of Cheap Meat. Now that made me think. The other one was The Soul of Leadership by Deepak Chopra. That was an eye-opener. I devoured that on the plane. Disrupt Yourself was another one, a book on personal transformation. And here's the piece de resistance: How to Learn Almost Anything in 48 Hours, Shortcuts and Brain Shocks or learning new skills. 48 hours, that's all it takes. But you've got to buy the book and it's $45. Anyway, I kept looking at the books, and there's a new thing out now. It's called, we know mindfulness. We've known about it before, it's just become fashionable. The Buddhists use the term, but it's in the writings, Unity writings and New Thought writings for years. And the latest thing is to colour in. And there's a series of books out called The Zen of Colouring In. So I had a look and I found this. There you go. Father's Day. What colour would you colour father? Pardon?
Red.
Red.
Warning sign.
Oh, Gina. Yes. And what colour would you colour the little girl's jumper?
Yellow.
Who said that? Jill, why is that?
Oh, sunshine.
Yes. And the little boy?
Orange. Blue.
Orange.
Orange.
And you're playing safe. Blue.
Stripes.
Stripes. Okay, stripes. And who else said something over here?
Orange.
Orange. Okay. So we've got all these choices, haven't we? And there's a book with all this stuff in it. And they're quite expensive too. But I thought, gee, they're fun. But it's nothing we haven't done before. And I thought, why didn't I think of that idea first? But someone did something about it, about the idea. And of course we know that's one of our principles here in Unity. It's all right to know it, but we have to eventually do it. Otherwise it stays where it stays. Now, today being Father's Day, reminds me of the Shakespeare quote, all the world's a stage. And we're all here to learn. Fathers are here to learn how to be that. Mothers are here to learn how to be that. And if we don't get the experience, we talked about reincarnation last week. It's not a doctrine of unity, but it's something to hang a belief on. So eventually, whatever experience we need will be put into that role where we need and experience that. So, the role of father is changing, and we know from our Bible reading, father was the word used. It's about time we thought of something else when we talk to God, but we know we're talking about universal intelligence, which is Father, and also one of the early popes, Pope John Paul, I think, said, yes, but God is your father, but he's also your mother. And that shocked a few of them while they were having their pizza on the piazza. You like that? So, anyway, now the qualities of a father. Here we go. Supportive. Sets guidelines, a teacher, good provider, moral guide, role model and patient. Lives the way he wants his children to live, a good listener, remembers what it's like to be a child and honours the feelings of his children. Now, if some fathers knew that before they came to earth, I don't think they'd apply for the job. What a lot of qualifications. What a challenge, what a gift. So, let's have a look at the perfect parents. Victoria and Albert. Wow. And it's interesting to know that on the 10th of September, Queen Elizabeth will have reigned a day longer than Queen Victoria. So it's been a long haul and the changes have been immense. Now, there they are, the perfect couple. He passed away when she was 40, she was about the same age, and she lived to a very old age. But the children, it must have been a nightmare, because she used to say to her son, who became the king, and her friends, none of you can ever be proud enough of being the child of such a father who has not his equal in the world, so great, so good, so faultless. Try all of you to follow in his footsteps, and don't be discouraged, for to be really in everything like him, none of you, I am sure, will ever be. Try therefore to be like him in some points, and you will have acquired a great deal. No wonder they turned out as they did. Rebels to the core. But as we know, one thing which wasn't up there, and which my father was good at, He knew when to step aside and let me make a mess and pick it up myself. He knew what was going to happen, and I'm sure most fathers here have said, and mothers, a good parent has to step back at some time and let the child experience for themselves the results of their actions. And isn't that what God does for us? We're not clones. I like one quote. Our Father God provides that we may have the joy of self-discovery. Now, it may not feel like joy when we're going through some of the situations, but as Reverend Grace said, and I reminded her up there in Brisbane, she used to say, out of all this mess, what is the gift? Do you remember that? Yes, well, she's still up there spreading the good word, I can tell you. Now, as far as Jesus goes, he doesn't refer to Joseph at all as his father. And for around 30 years of age, he is baptized by John the Baptist, and it's written, the heaven was opened, and the Holy Ghost descended in a bodily shape like a dove upon him, and a voice came from heaven and said, Thou art my beloved Son, in thee I am well pleased. Now, during his rather short but powerful ministry, which was 3 years, people were amazed at his miracles. But he always said, it's the Father in me that does the work, not me. Now, Joseph's an interesting character. He's a good role model for fathers, even though he's not talked about much in the Bible. Joseph, the husband of Mary, mother of Jesus. Joseph in Hebrew, from our Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, means whom Jehovah will add to, from perfection to perfection. He shall increase progressively. And Joseph and Mary went on to have a large family. And I can't remember what Jim said this morning, but whether it's literal or not, he had, according to the Bible, at least 4 brothers and 2 sisters. The brothers' names were James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. And one of his sisters' names was Salome. The other's sister is not known. Joseph was a carpenter from the line of King David, and he acted as father to Jesus when he was born. And it's probably just as well we don't know too much about him, but he was a very, very balanced man from what I can see. Now, when I talk about what I'm going to talk about, we're not talking about physical qualities, we're going to talk about soul qualities. The masculine soul qualities are reason and intellect, and the feminine soul qualities are intuition and nurturing. Doesn't matter what sex we are, this is what we have to do, a balanced perspective. When thy eye be single, thy body shall be full of light. And also the Tao Te Ching, which was read from in our meditation this morning, when the male becomes the female and the female becomes the male. Now, we're talking spiritually here, a balanced spiritual perspective. And Joseph filmed this. He protected Jesus and Mary. He took them away from the mess that they were in with Herod, when their lives were threatened, and they went out of Egypt, into Egypt, and he kept them there, and he was intuitive enough to know that there was problems. So off they went, and they came back when the time was right. So, in all sense, he was a good provider, a protector, highly intuitive, and a practical mystic. Now, time's running on, but I hope you don't mind, we're a little bit over time. But on this Father's Day, when we ask who is our Father, we have a dual approach here. Before our physical Father, we have the spiritual Father. But I'd like to now talk about some physical fathers. And I think the first one we have is Francois. There he is. And that's Tanya and their balloon. He couldn't be here today. And he's sorry about that, because he did want to be here. But I just wanted to share with you his family. His son has gone into the army, and of course they're a little bit sort of apprehensive about this. And it's probably good that he didn't talk today, but he wanted to be remembered to you because he's here in spirit, and so is Tanya. So let's just get get into their life a moment. Have a look at this. Isn't that beautiful? I don't know. Next one. There's about 5. There we go. I think there's one more. There we go. It's going to look nice on our website, isn't it? Now, I think the first father is Richard. Would you welcome Richard to the platform, please?
When Neil asked me to talk about what it represents for me, being a father, the first picture that I came up with was a picture of holding my little son. I remember the day he was born, and the emotions and the support from my wife at the time needed to be absolutely 100%. But nothing prepared me for the joy I had when I held him in my arms. It was like electricity, like Kundalini energy went right through my body, rising up, and the power and the feeling, the sensation and emotion of love, whole and complete, was right there and then. And this picture, for me, represents basically that. Just being one with my son. Just being there to support him and love him for the way he was. The next one, please. Now, we talked about before that sometimes we need to let our children go and be able to just let them be. And the picture on the right is about that. The day, the time when he wanted to be Superman. And all he had was, in that moment, the only tool he had was a tower. But for him, that tower represented the power. The power to be able to fly in whatever direction he wanted to fly to. And for me, just being able to witness that, to have a child with such an incredible imagination like all children do have. The one on the right, sorry, just that previous picture. The one on the left there is about having fun. We were in Tasmania and we had gone there as part of a promotional tour that I was doing about tourism around Australia. And he said, I wonder what the people felt like when they were put into the things. So we decided to have some fun instead. And we had a photograph taken. And as you can see, we were both dressed exactly the same. He was emulating me and I was emulating him, comparing the feelings and sensations and emotions of being each other. As we remember there, those people that may have been chastised through those blocks in there. Next one, please. This is about having, once again, fun. In an environment where everyone there, except 3 of us, were actually family and friends. The rest were just guests of the hotel at the Sheraton in Hobart, and the general manager invited us to be part of the New Year's Eve celebration. And that was a lot of fun to be able to see my son expressing and laughing, because by then my ex-wife and I had already separated and divorced, and I didn't know exactly what to do to maintain that feeling of homeliness, feeling of being together as one. And that was the first party we ever went to. And that was great, just to observe him from across the table. Next one. Now, that is a little boy. Taller than me, more handsome than me, more charismatic. And of course, he still holds my hand. He still holds my hugs. He loves giving me a hug and a kiss when we see each other. And of course, it's not about the size. It's not about who is better looking than the other. It's about just being who you are. And as a father, to see this child that grew up to such an extent, to know how responsible he is in the work that he does, being able to make enormous decisions that affect people in Australia, and yet he's still that little boy together with his dad. And that is the time when one lets go. The time when he wants to have his own family. He wants to increase his area of influence through carrying on the links of family. And that is his wedding day. The day where he says, well, now I'll have my own family. And it's incredible that I am here to be able to talk about him because he taught me enormous amount. In my mind, the memories that I remember is the first time he ever rode a bike. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of the park right next to the cemetery in Kew. Any one of you? There is a very slopey hill down towards the centre. So the only way how I could teach him how to ride a bike, because we had limited time, was to put him on a bike and help him to ride that bike, right next to it by holding the seat. And he said, oh, this is good, Dad, this is good, Dad, this is good, Dad. And here he is, running, going on the bike, and here I'm in front of him. I said, yeah, that's very good, that's very good. He said, oh, you're not holding me. It's like, no, I'm not holding you, sweetheart, but I'm here to protect you, here to hold you when you need to. So being a father is an enormous joy.
Thanks, Bill. This opportunity has given me a chance to more deeply ponder, and it's something that I'm realising as I get older, the power of pondering. And where it started, I guess, was my father. Dad was born in 1920, born into the Depression. So the context was sort of, from both my mother and my father's side, was, the Depression was a pretty big part of their lives. At the age of 20, also Dad was the eldest of 5 through the Depression, so he started work at 14 years, as soon as he could at 14 years old, and helped provide, so that was, this is Dad, around about 20 years old. He'd enlisted. The bottom one there is with his youngest sister, who passed away at the age of about 40 with leukemia. In those days, the treatment wasn't that good. And I'm not sure, it's not that photo, but it was interesting because what I noticed was that Dad had a wedding ring on, and I hadn't heard much about that other than he was involved in a long-term relationship with a girl from Essendon. Didn't hear much. Dad enlisted. He did his training, and they went to war. And he went to Singapore and was fortunate or unfortunate to be in the downfall of Singapore. So he was caught as a prisoner of war there. And for 3.5 years he was imprisoned. He was sent from Changi to Japan as slave labour. He's got a little handwritten diary that if they were caught, they would have been executed, but it was sort of the last few days before the declaration of peace. And no one knew that he was alive from home. And this is an article in the Argus that says, I think it's in 1945, I forget the date, but the top right-hand side is Victorian prisoner of war is recovered. And it's just saying that these people, but it's just a statement saying these people have been recovered. They won't say where they're from, or where they've been recovered from, and there's Dad's name down the bottom right-hand side. So that was the first time that anyone knew he was alive. And one of the entries in Dad's diary was that he weighed 69 pounds. Now, in the old days, that's 4 stone 5. Sorry. His football playing weight before he went was 14 stone. Today, that's 102 kilos. He was 31 kilos. So they fattened him up. Like they did with all of them. There was 200 that were over there from G-Force. There was 200. So some of the stories in the reunions that he and his friends shared was that they didn't have medical supplies, they didn't have anything, but the only way that they could survive was by focusing on the now. And that they learned a really critical, vital lesson was just concentrate on the next thing, just concentrate on today. And that was one of the things that Dad taught, was, you know, the power of now, the power of positive thinking. I don't think I ever heard him swear. I don't think I ever heard him, and he used to say, don't think, or if you haven't got anything nice to think, or haven't got anything nice to say, don't think or say it. Now, you know, you look at what we're doing in here, and it's just, it's, you know, no wonder he survived. Anyway, came home, and I guess, you know, the thing that he was thinking about is, you know, his girlfriend, you know, the things that would keep them going. And what he came home to is, because they all thought he was dead, is that his girlfriend had married his best friend. So it took him a while. He pedalled around Europe for three and a half years trying to recover, because he worked in a bank before he left. He knew that he could never stay inside, so he tried to do carpentry apprenticeship, couldn't do that. And so he took off on a push bike around Europe, and he'd go and work for a period of time to get some money, and then he'd go and push bike around Europe for as long as he could, and then come back and do some more work. And that was his way of rehabilitating. And he said it was just fantastic, because he'd stop and ask directions from the locals. They'd hear his Australian accent, they'd talk to him, and the next thing you know, he's invited in for soup and maybe stay the night and then on to the next place. So that got him sort of back in rehab. Married mum in 1952. Her fiance was a fighter pilot in the war. He was killed. So they were, you know, his mates that were in prisoner of wars with him. Unbelievable blokes. I mean, the bloke on the right-hand side was an Order of Australia. Just, you know, and how do you do it? Oh, we just do one step at a time. But this was the unfurling of the memorial, the prisoner of wars memorial down in Ballarat. And a really, really momentous day for him. Dad died in 2005. I think that was a few years before. He was 85. But interestingly, he was told he was never meant to have children, you know, with the rights and the deprivation that they had. He was never meant to live a normal life, and was 20 years minimum older than his years. So, amazing what the power of this could do, isn't it? He's the left-hand side. He's this side.
On the left?
Yeah. Words, but following on from Richard, becoming a father is probably one of the, the greatest privileges, but the greatest learnings. Our first child was 1982, and she was born 9 weeks prem. And in amongst all that unknown, that joy, you know, I just didn't know whether she was going to live or die. At her wedding a couple of years, 3 years ago, I said to her that, you know, that she taught me so much. Joy, you know, her middle name is Kylie Joy, and just every little step along the way, all the kids in their own ways, they have got different personalities. They take you on a different journey, and the journey doesn't end. You know, it's just the transition from it being thinking about life centred around yourself, to all of a sudden there's serving others, and there's learning about others, and there's another level of thinking that comes to being a father. And it's interesting, because to me, Father's Day is not really about me. It's about sharing all those other lessons, those other levels of thinking, of awareness of the abundance of God's substance. You know, it's just a phenomenal journey, isn't it, this life? It's just you know, and by being centred in the now, you know, today is great because, you know, we'll go home and we'll have a great lunch together. And to watch them each year as they grow and as they experience and as they, you know, come into their own, you know, like the marriages and the, you know, the different, you know, journeys and experiences that they go on, it's an absolute privilege.
Would you thank our fathers again, please? Now, I know time's moving on, but would you like a song from Beverly?
Well, I'd like to say Happy Father's Day too, to the fathers, and remember my own father, who sadly died at only 64, but he was a pathfinder in the Second World War, and they were very brave men, and he was awarded the DFC, which is the Distinguished Flying Cross, which I have to this day. And he went to Government House, it was in the newspaper. So, not a very long life, dying at 64, but a very brave man. And this, it's all a bit emotional this morning, isn't it? I hope I can sing. I've got to have a think for a minute. Now this song I chose because it's all about being a father, or indeed could be a mother, but to me more a father. And it's called Sonny Boy. Climb upon my knee, sonny boy. You are only 3, sonny boy. There's no way of knowing, there's no way of showing what you mean to me, sonny boy. When there are grey skies, I don't mind the grey skies. You make them blue, sonny boy. Friends may forsake me, let them all forsake me. I'll still have you, sonny boy. You're sent from heaven, and I know your worth. You made me a heaven for me right here on earth, and if the angels forsake me, let them all forsake me. You'll pull me through, sonny boy. And we'll hear from
Thanks to me, I suppose. Okay. Talk about giving, I have to receive as well. Greeters, Beverly and Ursula, thank you very much. Daily word was Norma, as always, a wonderful rendition, thank you. And music, Jenny Louise and Beverly, thank you. And a big round of applause for our very expensive interstate artist, Andrew. Thank you, Andrew. Andrew's got one more, but it's almost 12 o'clock, I'm sorry. We'll have to... Bob, I'm just getting there. Bob's not on the AV desk. Congratulations, Bob. He's actually filling in for Jim. And Diane, you'll be in the library for half an hour. Okay, thank you everyone. You'll be outstanding as we sing the peace song. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thank you.
Why have you come to earth? Do you remember? Why have you taken birth? Why have you come to love? Serve and remember to love. Serve and remember to love. Serve and remember. Why have you come to earth? Do you remember? Why have you taken birth? Why have you come to love? Serve and remember to love. Serve and remember to love. Serve and remember. Why have you come to earth? Do you remember? Why have you taken birth? Why have you come to love? Serve